Hey guys, it's your friend Kelly Dale here with off the Beaded Path beadstore.com. Thanks so much for joining me for part 2 of a 3-part video series for the winged star ornament. Now, if you have no clue what I'm talking about, if you'll click below in that video description box, I'm going to put a direct link to the week 1 video, which came out 2 weeks ago, where I show you how to make this guy right here. If you have no clue what this is a casting pod that you'll need to start your ornament on. So week 1, we learned how to make our pod. Now week 2, or video 2, we're going to learn how to start our ornament on the pod. Now I've had a couple of questions about this little guy and about the ornament, so let's go ahead and address those before we even start. Number 1, will I need multiples of these to make more ornaments? And the great answer is no. This little guy right here is completely reusable. You will not have to worry about it. When we take the ornament off of this, you can reuse it over and over and over again. So that's the great part. Another question I've got are, what beads am I going to use? I'm going straight by JD's pattern from the Screamin Squirrel. She calls to use size 11 Delica Beads, so that's what I'm going to be using. And I'm going to be doing a like the rainbow color or rainbows, stripes, whatever you want to call, of colors. So if you download the pattern, again, if you do not have the pattern, click below in that video description box. It's a free pattern. But I'm going to be doing this one right here. Now, mine is actually only going to be 2 colors. I'm going to be using red and white to make it look like a peppermint stripe, okay? So this is the one I'm going to be doing. Now, if you wanted to do any of these other patterns here, my best advice to you, because I have had people email me and ask me for these patterns, these are not my patterns. As I've said, this is JD's pattern from the Screamin Squirrel. So you will have to go to her blog and contact her if you would like to receive those patterns, because I'm not sure if she has them for free or they're for sale or what, but that's why I'm just doing the basic one today. So again, use your stash of Delicas that you have. This is going to take a lot of thread and some patience as we get ready to start this and work this project. So if you have not done it, go grab that free pattern, and then let's get a needle threaded with a comfortable length of thread, because you are going to have to add thread, and pull out whatever stash of Delicas you want to use, and let's get started. From page 2 of your pattern, you can see that this is where we stopped last week. This was our pod and how we did our pod. So now the next step in your pattern says, after making your pod, thread on a stop bead, stitch through an up bead on the pod, and begin the first round. This first round will be 4 beads per side, which includes half of the 2 bead herringbone increase. Notice I'm not using all the spaces available. This pod has 6 available, and I'm only going to need 4. So what this means is, if I blow this up really big here for you to see, we would do a bead here. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 would be here up top. So that is the first picture. That's how you know that there's 6. Now here in the second one, you can see that she's not going all the way to the bottom or all the way to the top. She's starting and has only got 1, 2, 3, 4 beads per side. So when she says 4 beads per side, she means 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 4th bead that she's talking about, the 1st and the 4th, are actually what we call herringbone increases. And it's where we're going to pick up 2 beads at a time here at the top and the bottom. And this is going to give us those increases that we need. So that's how we're going to be doing that first row. It says, and as we go through, as we work the pod, I'm going to explain to you what these little beads are right here in your pattern. I'll explain those to you so that you'll know what to do. So let's go ahead and get your needle threaded with a comfortable length of thread and put a stop bead on it, and we're ready to go. All right, so I have the pod we made last week. See if I can zoom in here a little bit more for you. There we go. Okay, so again, this is a 6 bead pod, because this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is where those 6 beads are coming in that she was talking about. So I'm going to start out because she wants us to have our little herringbone increases at the top and the bottom, and we're only going to have 4 beads, which should be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to start here, right here at the top, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come down through this bead right here. Now you can start over here, you can flip it up because it's the same on both sides. You can flip it up, either way will work. If you want to, you can even start up this way, okay? It's completely up to you how you want to start, either up or down, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start right here. I'm through this bead. Okay, and I'll actually be adding these 2 beads here at the end. So I'm going to start with the white because it's going to be easiest for you to see it. So I'm going to pick up 1 white and go through. And this is the only thing, just make sure as you work you don't get threads caught. Let me move some of these whites over here. All right, so pick up another one and come through. Okay, so I've got 2 beads here. Remember, I'm going to have some up here. So I've got this and this. So when I come to right here, this is a herringbone increase. So I pick up 2 beads and I come through the orange bead right across from where my thread's coming out. So see, I'm not using these green ones down here. I'm just going to come right across and go through the bead right across from where my thread's coming out. So it's going to look just like that. And right now they're going to be wonky, but as we work, they will start to turn and they'll look like these down here. All right, so this is bead 1 working up. I have another. This is going to be bead 2. Bead 3. And now bead 4 is an increase here. So I'm picking up 2 beads and I'm coming down through the bead right across from where my thread is coming out. So you can see here, this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so this bead here is going to be my first bead down this row. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and then I pick up 2 down here. This is my increase. So this is bead 4 on that side and bead 1 on the next side. Now, this is where we're going to learn what those other little beads were for that she was showing in the picture. So I'm going to come up through and finish this row, and then I'm going to show you what that little picture means down at the bottom. So we'll actually be taking the row that we're adding right now. It will come off of the row that we've got started here. All right. So what we want to do actually, let me pick up 2 beads here. Okay, so this is what I've got so far, and now we're ready to put in those other little beads that I was showing you the picture of just a minute ago. So let me zoom out just a little bit here so I can show you. All right, so she says this is what they call like a separation point. And you'll see here in the picture what she's doing. You can use 1 or 2 beads, whatever you want to do. And they need to be completely different from any other bead that you're using. But what we're going to do is we're going to be using these and putting these periodically into the piece. And you'll see there as you work more rows, kind of how they'll get down in there. But what we're actually going to use those for is when you look here, we're going to cut that off. So pulling this off of the podcast is just going to make this easier to do. Okay, so that is what these little beads are for. So again, you need a bead completely different from what you're using to be able to do this. So let me grab that bead. All right, so I went over and I grabbed me a bright yellow bead so it would look different. This is just a regular 11 bead, and I'm going to square stitch. So I'm going to come right back through the same orange bead that I'm coming out of so that it will just kind of tack it on there. Now that is not part of our beadwork. Again, we're going to cut that off just to help us pull this row out that we're doing now to take it off of the pod. So I'm going to put one there, and then I'm going to go over a little bit. I'm going to put another one, and I'm going to go over and put another one. So we can do this a couple of times, and then that way you've got those. Just be careful. You can see here my thread got caught right there. So just be careful on that. But remember, when you get down here to the bottom or you get up to the very top, you got 2 beads. Otherwise, it's just 1 bead. And then every so often, you're going to put one of those little square stitch beads right there. All right, so you can see here, I have my first row put on there, and you can see my bright yellow beads that are in there where I've got them. And I know I'm back to the start because right here was where I started with that little tail thread and stop bead. So what I need to do here at the top is I need to pick up 2 of the white beads that I've got, and I come down through the bead right across from where the thread is exiting. That finishes my row. Now I'm ready to step up to the new row. So that means I'm going to go through the first bead that I added on the round, which was this white bead right here. So I'm going to pull right through. So row 1 of 18 to go. So here we go. You're coming out here to work the next row. You're going to pick up a bead, come through the bead sticking up, pick up a bead, and this time you see I've got my 2 beads here at the bottom. I'm going to come through just that first bead of the 2 there. And now I work a herringbone increase. So this means I pick up 2 beads and I come right up through the bead right next to where my thread is exiting. So now you see how those lay stacked right below each other. So you pick up 1 bead, come to the next bead sticking up, Lord, I'm getting caught on everything. Let me take off my ring, y'all. Ooh, okay. So now I pick up a bead, come to the next bead sticking up. And this time, when I pick up my bead, I'll be going through the first bead of my set of 2 here at the top. So I pick up a bead, and I'm go through. You kind of have to maneuver it. Come on. There we go. So you can see I'm only going through the first bead there of that set of 2 beads. Now we have to work a herringbone increase. So we pick up 2 beads and come down through the very next bead. So you'll notice what I'm doing right now is we're basically covering up all of the orange beads is what's happening now. You're not going to see when you finish the row, you should just see whatever your first color is that you're using. That's all you're going to be able to see when you look down on it. So I'm going to keep going until I get to this point right here so that you can see what to do. So I'm just going to continue to work the peyote and then the herringbone increases at the bottom and the top. The biggest thing, again, as you work, just be careful not to get your thread caught or pay attention to that and not get your thread caught. And make sure that those lay the way that they need to, just like that. Okay, so when you get to one of your beads, which I'm fixing to get to right here, When you get to one of those beads, you're just going to push it down one side or the other. I'm going to push it down to the inside of my V shape there. Don't go through it. There we go. I'll use my thumb to hold it down as I do this next step. Okay, so I'm making sure that lays right. Now you can see, like I said, I'm just holding this to one side with my thumb. It doesn't matter if I go to the left or to the right, but I'm just going to hold it so that I can pop that bead in place now and kind of get that hole covered up and not have to worry about that single bead. So I'm just going to keep working this row until I finish and I'm ready to step up. So at the completion of row 2, this is what I have. Now, when you get to the end of the row and you add that last bead, make sure to complete the row by picking up a bead and going through a bead, but then you have to do that step up. So I'm going through the last bead of the row and the first bead of the new row. So you can do this one at a time, or you can go through it both at the same time. I'm going to do it one at a time just to show you here. This is the last bead of my row. And then I'm going to step up by going through the first bead of the row, which is this bead right here. So far, again, I have 2 rows. I'm going to work one more row of the white. So you pick up a bead, come through a bead. And this time when you pick up your bead, and I'm going to hold it here to the side like this so you can see it a little better. You see I've got my increases here. So I skip a bead and go through a bead. So I'm going to be coming through the last bead here on the bottom. So now I'm here to the bottom. This is an increase. So this means I pick up 2 beads and I come up through just that very next bead. Again, you just might have to make them lay right. That's what we want them to look like right there. Okay, now I'm going to peyote up. So 1, 2, and you'll notice as you work, your rows are getting longer. We no longer have just our 4 beads on a row. So now when I get here to the top, and I'm going to hold it to the side so you can see it a little better. You see I'm coming out of this bead, I skip this bead, and I come through the next bead, regular peyote. So I'm coming out of that top bead. Now I've got to do an increase, so I'm going to pick up 2 of my 11 Delicas in the white, and I'm going to come right down through the very next bead. So now I'm going to work this row all the way around for row 3. So at the end of row 3, this is what it's going to look from the top, and then this is what it's going to look like straight on. Now you can see here, I'm going to put my finger there so you can see I have 1 bead left to add on that row. So I pick up 1 bead and I skip the little space and go through the next bead that finishes out the row, and then I step up through the first bead of the new row. So there, that finishes the row. And now we step up and come through this bead right here. So this is 3 rows. I know this is 3 rows because if I start right here and count, that's 1, 2, 3. 3 rows of white. So now I'm going to switch actually over to my red. And you do exactly the same. There's nothing you need to change. Just start with your next color and just start working your regular peyote and your increases at each end of your row. So you will just continue until you have it as big as you want. Okay, so a couple of quick notes before you continue on. On this page of your pattern, that page right there, it says at the top that to add a second row of beads, which we did, and she says, when I finish round 2, I reinforce by needling through rounds 1 and 2 and then step up. And she says, be careful not to stitch into the pot again or you'll have problems removing the beadwork. I am a very, very super tight stitcher, so I didn't feel like I needed that. But if you're loosey-goosey, you may want to go and do that again. Now, right above this picture, it says, continue to add rounds, and remember, this is an all wing, not a rickrack, and has herringbone increases at every tip. The number of total rounds is up to you. She said, my stars vary from 16 to 18 rounds, but you may continue as many as you like. The more rounds, the bigger the star becomes. The stars on the first page are between 3 and 4 inches across. The photo shows this piece with 1 round to go. All right. Now, I am going to do 2 colors, and I'm going to do 3 rows of each color, just repeating that until I have 18 rounds. Now, when I finish the 18 rounds, I'm actually going to go and put silver on the edge. No matter if I finish off with white or I finish off with the red, I'm going to finish off silver. So when I get to that row, I'm going to show you, because I'm going to do the points like she shows in this picture here. I'm going to do the points like that. So just as soon as I get it all ready to go and I'm ready for those last 2 rows, I will let you know. So as you work on your piece, you are going to be using a lot of thread. I've already used about 8 yards of thread, and I have done, if I start here on this little lowest point, I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I have done 14 rows, and like I said, you're going to run out of thread. So the easiest way to change out your thread as you work is to take your new piece of thread, and you see I'm just leaving a tiny bit of thread here on the end. Now I still have my working thread exactly where it's at, so I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to pass up through that bead so that my new working thread will already be in position exactly where I need it. So I'm going to go up through that bead, pull just a little bit through here, and then I'm going to go up through a bead, well, there we go, and then I'm going to come down through the bead right next to it. I'm going to see if I can zoom in here just a little bit more for you. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to go up through a bead right next to it here. And then through the next bead. Each bead that I go through, I'm just going through it so that you don't see the thread. I'm not jumping across any beads or anything like that. I'm just passing through them in a diagonal, so that way you don't see the thread. And I'm locking the thread in place as I work. Now, if you pull this thread and this thread moves, then, or this little tail thread here that you've got from it, if it moves, then you know that it's not secure yet and you need to keep passing through some beads and stitching it. Your biggest thing, you just have to be careful, and you'll learn this as you stitch it as well. You're going to constantly get your thread caught on the corners, so you just have to be careful about that. But once you feel like it is nice and secure, then you can actually take and get rid of the thread there. You can set that one to the side. And now I can take my leftover working thread and I can do the same thing with this thread, so that now I have a new long tail thread in place, or a new long working thread, and ready to go. All right, so you can see here I have quite a few rows. So if we count these, if I start here at the lowest bead, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I have 16 rows right now. In the samples on the pattern, she said she did 18 rows. Well, I don't want 3 full rows of red to finish off here. I only want 1 more, so I'm only going to have 17 rows. So at this point, I'm going to start putting the tips on. Now, if you look at your pattern, she says that you can put the tips on however you want. I'm going to use size 8 seed beads at each tip. So to do this, I'm just going to continue on like I normally would. Let me move my reds over here. There we go. So I'm going to pick up my bead and go through the next bead. You know, everything's working exactly as you normally would have it work. But when I come to the tip, oop, I think I got 2 beads in there. Yep. Yeah. So when I come to the tip right here, instead of picking up my 2 11s, I'm only going to pick up 1 8 and come down through the very next bead. So this is going to give me a point. All right. Now, if you look at your pattern, again, she says you can do it however you want to, but I have just the 1 bead. So then I'll continue to work up, and when I get up here, I'll put in another one to show you. Okay, so I'm up here at the top where I would normally put in my 2 11s, but instead of putting in an 11, I'm going to put in 1 size 8 seed bead and come down through the very next bead, so that now every single point will have a size 8 seed bead. So guys, you know what your assignment is, to grab your pod and start stitching your piece. You can do as many color seed beads as you want. You can do any patterns that you want. You can do as many rows as you want. Just know that for me personally, this has taken me about around 10 to 12 hours to do. As she said, it took her in the pattern as well. So if you're a slow beater, it's going to take you a little while longer. So you've got 2 weeks to work on your pattern or whatever you want for your ornament. And then 2 weeks from now, I will be showing you how to take this off the pod, which is still in the center there, and how we finish it off to make a beautiful winged ornament. So guys, I can't wait to see what you come up with and what fun patterns that you do on these little guys. So remember, if you did not download the pattern, which is completely free, the Screamin Squirrel is the one who's letting us do this. Look right below in the video description box and you will see the direct link to that pattern there for the winged ornament, so you can see what it looks like if you have no clue. So you guys have a great one, and we'll see you again very soon where we're going to take this off the pod and finish it off. Bye-bye.